you for joining another weekly session. From past couple of weeks, I was not able to schedule anything, but here we are with a brand new topic. So today we are going to discuss about how you can write JMeter tests in Python. So thanks to Eldad who come up with some excellent idea working with Roger. So I think a few weeks ago we have seen how to write a JMeter scripts in Java, right? So initially there were some questions about other languages. So here we are with Python. Hi Eldad, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Cool.
So thank you for the idea behind pymeter, right? So
Thanks.
it got some initial traction from the community,
Yeah.
and yeah, today we'll get to see in hands-on.
Yeah, we will.
Personally, I never tried. I was about to try this week, but before that, we scheduled this call. Anyway, I hope this will we will get some lot of community contributions. I hope after this call,
Yeah.
probably we can
I
shape
hope so.
the project well.
I hope so. But I think that before then, maybe a few words about your new repository. Do not say not functional because it got a lot of people mad and it got a lot of people intense. So I think it deserves a few words, and I think you are doing a worthy effort here.
Yes, let me share my GitHub repository in the chat so that everybody can see and contribute. So the main purpose of that particular repository is to aware people who are coming into the industry or who are already there for past many years. We've been using things wrong. So it's not something. It's not crime to use that, but it's not right to use that word. You know. So there is some words we cannot change it, right? Branding or how you write JMeter. So some things we should not change just for our convenience. So that's why I come up with that. Okay, let us take some initiative towards that. I don't think it will happen overnight, right? But at least one drop make an ocean. So just starting. People already in Reddit, I posted the same thing, and I got some negative vibe. Why we want to do it? Why can't we use the same thing? Right? People are full of negativity in Reddit, so I just stopped following it. I
Yeah.
respond to people, but people who are like behave like a trolls. I mean, I don't need to respond, right? So I stopped responding to that. But in other places, I got some good positive feedback. Anyway, that repository, let me just quickly post it in the chat. Yeah, whenever you have something, some new term for you, just submit a PR so that we can start making things right. Uh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the term functional, non-functional is kind of a abuse word, I would say.
Yeah. It
We've been
is.
using from past many years, more than decades, couple of
Yeah.
decades, I suppose. Right. So
Yeah.
it's totally opposite of functional, the term what we are using.
True. True. I mean, functional is very relative to what you're trying to achieve, and functional and non-functional might be within that context. So I believe that this term should be changed.
Correct.
Uh, so with all that in mind, let's go to our discussion today. So first of all, I want to thank Naveen for having me here and having this discussion and for his overall support. He has been very supportive of my project and he helped me quite a bit. I created this agenda for today. We're actually going to start. Actually, uh, my screen is shown, right? Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, let me
Cool.
stream your screen. You can switch it to the PowerPoint presentation or whatever you want to
All right.
share. Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go through the concepts. I'm going to go dirty a little bit. We're going to start with a live demo. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go over the actual implementation. I'll go over the motivation behind it. Why am I doing this? And I'm going to use Selenium as my case study. I'm going to talk a bit about the Python ecosystem. I'm going to talk a bit about the coding conventions and reducing barriers to entry. I'm going to talk about the design of pymeter, how it works and how it functions, and overall what's the purpose. And I'm going to do another illustration with the pref monitor to illustrate a point. And I'll get to that shortly. Having that done, I'm going to talk about pymeter's performance. Okay, so I'm going to talk about benchmarking. I'm going to talk about the concerns. Okay, why are there are performance concerns? And these are things that actually Naveen brought up to me very eloquently. I'm going to talk about the theoretical explanation as to why these concerns should not be too much. And I'm going to even show empirical evidence as to how I actually prove that, or measure, not proof. Proof is mathematical. So I'm going to present some empirical evidence about this. And I'm going to talk about the roadmap, what I want to achieve further with this project. So let's go into the first part of our agenda, which is the live demo. I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go over my workspace. I'm going to open the command prompt over here. Let's do it the full screen, and I'm going to make here a demo pymeter QA Insight. I'm going to cd to that directory. And a good practice for a Python developer is to start from creating a virtual environment. So Python -m v.
Eldad, we are seeing your Notepad++ screen, not the command prompt.
I'm sorry, so I shared the wrong screen. Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay, so let's see how am I going to fix that. Stop sharing. And where is it at? There it is. Share. I understand. And this is my command prompt. Okay, is that?
Yes. Yeah, I can see it, yes.
Cool, awesome. Okay, so this is why it looked weird to me at the beginning when I started to show things up. All right, so now I'm going to create a virtual environment, a really good practice for a Python developer. So this is the command line, how you do that. I, of course, need to do that with Python, not Python. There is no such thing. And I'm waiting a few moments. So this one creates a sterile environment for me to work in. Okay, so I'm not contaminating other projects. Let's wait for it for a few seconds.
Okay. Yeah, meanwhile, we can say hi to Melvin and Rama, who joined us in YouTube.
Sure. Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to go back to our agenda. Okay, so I'm starting with the demo, then the motivation, design, the pref monitor. And at any point, I'm ready to take questions. So if you have questions, I'll stop and I'll do my best to answer them. So my virtual environment is set to go. I'm going to activate it. Scripts activate. Okay, so for Python developers, this means that the virtual environment is activated. And now I'm going to install pymeter from pip. So pip install. So now this name is a bit tedious. I have some naming problems because pymeter is taken by another project that is not currently active since 2007. Okay, so it's that painful. But the name, the PyPy name is JMeter DSL. I'm going to wait for that to install. It's going to install all the other dependencies. Now, as to virtual environment, if you happen to use something like Poetry, pipenv, or Conda, that would do just fine. Okay, so now let me just clear everything so you can see it. And now having all my dependencies installed, I'm going to verify that with pip freeze. It takes a while. There they are. These are all the dependencies. Keep in mind PyGNIS. Okay, we're going to talk about this a bit, and I think it's going to be very informative to many of the listeners. So I'm going to start Python. All right, so we have Python right over here. Just a second. And to start scripting, I would have to first import my dependency. So from pymeter.api.config. Okay, and if you know JMeter and you've already heard lectures from Roger and others about the JMeter DSL, you know that you need a test plan. Okay, so a test plan is an overall object that wraps your entire test plan. So import test plan. Sorry, capital letters. And I also need a thread group. Okay, so within the test plan, you have different thread groups. I'm going to import the one that's called thread group with ramp up and hold. Whew, I know it's a long name. We're going to talk about this in a moment.
Is there any reason why you're using the REPL?
I want to show it live for a moment.
Okay.
All right. So in addition to that, we need to import the reporter. So from pymeter.api.reporters import HTML reporter. Right. We also need a timer. So JMeter has different timer objects. So we are going to use the uniform random timer. So from timers import uniform random timer, and we need a sampler, right? So from pymeter.api.samplers import HTTP sampler. We have everything that we need imported. Now let's create those objects. So first, I'm going to start with the timer equals uniform random timer. And it takes two parameters, so top and bottom, and it's going to, with each iteration, it's going to randomize a uniform number between these two, and it's in milliseconds. So let's take these two. We also need the sampler. Okay, so now I'm going to create an HTTP sampler. So HTTP sampler equals HTTP sampler. Right, this one takes two obligatory or mandatory variables. One of them would be the name. Okay, so this is the name in the reporter. And the other one is the URL, which I have in my cheat sheet here. Just a second, it's in the documentation. Quick start. This one, so this is Postman Echo. It's a really good resource to know. So I'm going to paste it here. And if you remember JMeter DSL, JMeter DSL has children as a function. Okay, so it's a method where you can attach children to it, to the parent object. Here you're going to do it directly in the constructor. So here I'm only going to have one child, which is the timer. Okay, so we have our sampler, we have our timer. We're going to create our reporter. So HTML reporter equals HTML reporter. And this one can stay blank. It doesn't have to. You could give it a variable if you want to, which would be the name of the folder where the report will be saved. So we have our reporter. We need a thread group. So thread group equals, equals thread group with prompt up and hold. So this one takes three mandatory variables. One of them is the number of threads. So let's say in our example 10. The second one is the ramp up time. Let's say 1 second. So it's going to ramp the entire thread pool in 1 second. And the last one is how many seconds should that hold? Okay, so this, let's say 30 seconds. And then it's going to take the children. Okay, so in the same sense that you append the children to the JMeter GUI object or the Java DSL object. So we're going to do it in the same way here. And here the child is the HTTP sampler.
No need to attach the timer here because timer is already attached to HTTP sampler.
Exactly, precisely. Yeah, JMeter is very hierarchical in its structure. So it's preserved here in pymeter as well. Right, so we have our thread group now. All we need is our test plan. So here we don't need to assign it to anything. We're just going to instantiate it. We're going to attach a thread group. And we're going to attach a HTML reporter. And we're just going to run it. And we see that JMeter Engine is started running. And if we go to our directory here, we see that we have a new directory that we did not create, which is the output directory. And we have a reporter here. For now, it only contains the JDL because the test is not completed yet. So let's wait for it to complete. We gave it 30 seconds.
So here we get the periodic updates. What's
Yes,
happening in our
precisely. This is the normal thing that you usually see with JMeter. And test as completed, we can go to our HTML report. We can open it in our browser. And there it is. We passed the test successfully with an Echo Postman server. We have all the other things. Thank you. I love to hear those claps. Okay, so this is overall the demo. This is what you can generally achieve now with pymeter. You can get a very basic test. Of course, I'm going to talk more about this in the roadmap. And I think this is time to stop for questions, if there are any.
Yeah, I got some questions here, but it's too early to answer that. But yeah, we will get back to your agenda. We'll come back to the questions later.
All right. Okay, so if there are no further questions, the next part of our agenda is to talk a bit about the motivation. And the motivation, I first would like to talk about Selenium. Selenium is by far the most successful automation tool ever. We can say a lot of things about it. We like it, we don't like it, we kind of tolerate it, but it is the best. I'm sorry, I kind of hear myself. Maybe.
Let me mute myself.
Yeah, for now. All right. So it is the best and the most well known automation tool for today. I mean, since ever. And I think one of the main reasons for that is because they did a really good job at decoupling the tool itself from the API or the usage. Okay, so you have the Selenium driver or the web driver, which is go across the different browsers. And then you have the Java API, the Python API, the Ruby, C#, Golang, I think. So this gives this appeals to a very large crowd. Okay, and we see that Playwright try to do the same thing. So Playwright has initially designed in Node.js, and then they extended that to Python and then to C# and Java. So we see this trend. We see that we do want the engine to be one thing, but then the language to be another thing. Why? Because first of all, it helps to reduce barriers to entry. If there is more pool of languages to use, then more people would be keen to use it. Now, the easy way out is to say, okay, I want everyone to know Java, which is a good idea. I do think that people need to know Java, but not everybody are available for this. And it's also depend on the type of organization that you work in. So you might be good at both Java and Python, but the organization you work in are good in Python. So you have a lot of Django developers or a lot of fast API developers. So it might be easier for you to use Python instead of Java, or maybe maybe your team are good in Golang, and someone would be happy to implement a JMeter DSL in Golang. Maybe that would be great, but we need to go in this direction where we have the JMeter as an engine, and then we have the different languages that people can use to their advantage. So this is so much for the Selenium and the Python ecosystem. And now I would talk a bit about the coding conventions. I will go back to the code, the test code that I executed, and you see this long name, this long tedious name. I would just like to say about this that this is this is something that we are accustomed to in the Python community, and for a very specific reason. In Java, for example, you have static types. Okay, so your types, the types of your variables are determined before you execute the code, right? But in Python, you have dynamic typing, so the type is determined at runtime, only when you run the code. So generally, and this is, don't shoot the messenger. This goes to Raymond Hettinger, one of Python's core developers. He suggested that in dynamically typed languages, you better use those long names, okay, because they are better at revealing the intention behind this. So when someone reads this, they can understand, hey, this is a thread group that has a rump up time and a hold time. Okay, it becomes more apparent. Now, With JMeter DSL in Java, you have the type. So the type gives you that intention instead. But overall, I did quite an effort to be adherent to PEP8 as much as I can with the naming convention. So classes, for example, in Python are in a camel case like this, and variables are in a snake case like this. So keep to the PEP8. Again, I'm not saying that coding convention in Pythons are better to that of Java. This is absolutely not the case. I'm saying that it's different. In the same sense that the chaining structure that you see with JMeter DSL is something that is very acceptable in Java and also in JavaScript. Okay, so you have a lot of chaining as a structure. In Python, we tend to like flat, more flat structure. Okay, I think this is part of the Zen of Python. So if I go do some import this is the Zen of Python, and written by Tim Peters some, I don't know, 30 years ago or so. And they usually say that flat is better than nested. Simple is better than complex. And there are other things here. Let me just, I think explicit is better than implicit, this one. Okay, so this is the same guideline that we overall use in Python, and I would like to deliver that to the Python community. So this is so much for the motivation, and again, I think this is again time for questions. Maybe the things to answer.
Yeah. Thanks, Eldad. So basically, the with respect to conventions, we are supposed to use wherever we are using the Python implementation, we should use the snake format. Wherever wherever JMeter is interacting, we will be using the Java convention.
Yeah, you should use the conventions that are accustomed to in your ecosystem or your runtime environment.
And also, it's very easy to read, right? Okay, if it is a uniform random time, we can see, okay, it is a JMeter related. And if it is something like our variables, we can see, okay, it's our variable. It's nothing to do with JMeter, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy to differentiate.
Yeah. I think it becomes easier to differentiate. And again, these are just the standard ways we write in Python. So this is overall. Now, further, I think that what really prompts me into doing that is I've been using JMeter for a very long time. I think like over 6 years. And the GUI implementation was kind of a trouble for me in many ways. And when I discovered JMeter DSL, and thanks to you, Naveen, when you brought Roger to the Clubhouse, this is back in the Clubhouse days, I talked to him about this, and I was really amazed to see what you can achieve with plain code. It's easier for you to, for example, just one tiny example. We all remember the log4j vulnerability. I think we still carry the pain of that fiasco. When I needed to replace a JMeter version, I need to extract this zip file and stuck it in some place in my computer, and then I need to rearrange my environment there with the plugins and everything else. And it's a lot of pain. And now when I have JMeter DSL, I can simply do that with a Maven or Gradle repository. So it's a lot easier. And later on, I thought about, okay, why not using the same thing with Python? Okay, so that really prompted me up into this. And again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Roger that he has been very supportive of this effort, and he has been very kind in this respect.
Yeah, Roger is very responsive also for the issues we raise in GitHub. Yeah, it's pretty active. The project is pretty active.
Yeah, he is. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, we have got some questions, but it's too early to answer. Yeah, everyone is interested towards the load generation part. Probably we'll get to that eventually. Yeah. Meanwhile, you can continue with your agenda, Eldad.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to recreate my Python prompt, and now I would like to talk about the design. How does it work? How does it happen? Behind the scenes. Because we have Python and it actually does run Java. Okay, so just a second, just one thing that is very important. You must have Java installed on your PC if you run this. Okay, so Java minus -- version. This must be there. Okay, so you must have Java to run JMeter. But the question is, how does Java comes to life? How does it happen? And there are really two ways to do that. One of them is I'm going to prompt a completely separate process. Okay, so a Java process So let's take an example. I would create the JMX file, and then I will run JMeter. But this would require more dependencies, more executable files to deliver, and it would be very cumbersome. You need to oh, I'm sorry, my dog is start barking. Sorry for that, Jamil. Sorry about that. You're gonna get some sound effects here. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get them.
That's
Just
fine.
a second.
Yeah, sure. So meanwhile, yeah, I see questions regarding the load generation part from Enoch and
This is the
Vignesh.
criminal over here.
Yeah, probably we'll get to that. As of now, we let us focus on the how things works, how Eldad designed the pymeter, how it works, how we can write some simple code or a little advanced code in Python for
Okay,
JMeter
dealt with
tests.
the
So
criminal.
we'll get to that eventually. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's back.
I'm
Yeah,
back.
please go ahead.
All right. So one way to do that is by using an inter-process communication. Okay, so prompting an entire process of Java and started delivering back and forth information between Python and Java. It's not pretty, and there are projects that did that in not only in performance engineering but in other areas. But it's painful. So another way to do that is to use bridging. Okay, so bridging is a method in which we reflect. Okay, so reflection is a big word in programming. We reflect classes and behaviors from one runtime environment to another runtime environment. Okay, so in this case, we reflect or we bridge between Java and Python. Okay, so I'm going to type in again pip freeze. And remember when I told you to get a hold on this, pyJNIS. Okay, so pyJNIS is a very easy bridge between Java and Python. And as the name implies, it doesn't use inter-process communication. It uses the Java native interface. Okay, so there's a lot of C code going on in this package. Originally, it was designed for Android development, but then they okay, so if you're familiar to Kiwi, Kiwi is a Python Android application development framework. But then they extended that to other endeavors, and I decided to use the same thing here. I did that in the past. I actually wrote an article about this in the past. Naveen, if you want to, you could maybe post that article. Maybe I still have it here.
Sure.
Just a second. I can't get it. Maybe later. Okay, I'll send it later. I don't want to. Oh, I have it. I actually have it. Okay, so maybe I can post it here in the chat. Is there a chat here?
I don't think you'll have Eldad. Probably you can ping me in LinkedIn. I can add it to the YouTube description. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it in the. I'll send it to you in LinkedIn, and you can put it there. Okay, this is an article that I posted to Better Programming. So this is bridging between Java and Python with pyJNIS. So I'm going to start my Python prompt. Okay, again, we're going to get those hands dirty, and I'm going to from JNIS import autoclass. So what autoclass does, it reflects a class from Java to Python. Okay, so let's take just a very silly example. This is the Java string. Okay, so equals autoclass. Oh, just one thing. This is a Java string class, right? So this is just a class, not the actual objects of the class. And I'm going to have to give it the full name. Okay, so the full description of the class, it's usually a package and then a class. So it's java.lang.string. All right, so this is a class. Now, when I have a class, I can instantiate objects out of it. So this is the Java string object equals Java string class, and it takes a string. So let's say my name. Let's do something a bit more fancy. All right, so now what can we do with it? Let's see. So from pprint, so pprint is the pretty print in Python. So import print, and now let's print the result of dir of that object. So Java string object. And this is what we get. Now look at this. These are not Python string functions. These are Java string functions. Okay, so we took from the Java runtime environment the Java class. Now if I'll try to print it, I'll get gibberish, right? I'm getting something that doesn't make any sense. So Java string class object. I'm sorry, string object. Okay, I get gibberish. Okay, this is not something that Python knows how to print, but this is an actual behavior that Java implemented and Python does not have. Okay, so I'm going to, let's try something else here. Instead of that, I'm going to do, let's say, two uppercase. And it converted that string into uppercase. And again, there is a lot of conversion between Python and Java that is going on here. But the bottom line, this is how we can bridge between Java and Python. And I think you could find this useful in some of your projects. Now, be careful, of course, because when you have an entire project up and running, you might find it difficult to support future changes. So if, let's say, for instance, if Roger decided to really re-implement his entire project, that might lead me to some trouble. But again, I trust Roger that he's not going to do a lot of changes. And again, because this is a person that I can talk to, and I personally also submitted one pull request to the JMeter DSL project. So I have a lot of trust here. I have a lot of things to play with. So to make a long story short, I'm going to bring the GitHub repository. And what I'm doing here is actually, let's go to source API. Actually, one step prior to that. Yep, so we see here that I'm using this jars to set up the class path. So I have a lot of jars. You're not going to find them here in the repository because they are only created when you install the app. So let's go back. You know what? Let's go back here again. Here's the virtual environment. Within the virtual environment, we have libs, side packages, pymeter, and within pymeter we have resources and jars, and we have all the jars that are included in the original Java JMeter DSL project. So the first thing, we are going to append that to the class path. Having that appended to the class path, we can now create objects out of it. So if you go to API init, okay, some statement, some licensing statement. And there you go. First of all, I need the duration object. This is a standard Java library. And this is actually coming from Abstracta. So US Abstracta JMeter Java DSL. So now I have access to everything they have, and it's very easy for me to then create this bridge and wrappers or whatever is necessary. Yeah, so that's the overall implementation here.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
So this is how we are bridging the gap between Java and Python.
Yeah, yeah. Now I've heard that there are some bridges between Java and JavaScript. I am not so good in JavaScript. I'm not so versed in the JavaScript ecosystem. But if there is anyone out there who is good in JavaScript, I would love to see you take this challenge and do the same thing. I think that would be awesome.
So what features are available right now in pymeter? So because JMeter has so many components, right? Elements.
Yeah.
So what pymeter supports? So what is not supporting right now?
So for the moment, I'm not supporting. You know, let's go to the docs. So for the moment, I'm not supporting multi-agent or remote execution. The master worker architecture. I will support it, and I think this is getting to the roadmap, which I would like to talk about at last. But at the moment, I do support thread groups and setup and teardown thread groups if you need it. Setup and teardowns are good if you need to distribute the setup and teardown processes across the different agents that you have. But if you use one instance, then you can simply use a setup and teardown of your own testing framework. So if you use PyTest or the Python unit test or Behave, Nose, or any of the other unit testing platforms, then you're good to go with the standard setup and teardowns that you have there. I support HTTP samplers. I support only get and post at the moment. I will get delete, put, patch, and options and the other verbs. I only support JSON content. I will support others in the future. I also support the dummy, the dummy sampler. As to timers, I only support uniform random timer for now. I will support other timers as well in the future. And I only support the HTML reporter for now. And again, this is why it's still an alpha version, because it doesn't support a lot of features, but over time it will support more features and I get more comfortable with that. And obviously, I follow the same practice that Roger has set up. I'm open to the community. If you have any further ideas, if you want to be involved either with coding or with ideas or find bugs, you are more than welcome to submit. I am very responsive, so feel free to do it.
Got it. How about third-party plugins, Eldad?
Yeah, so again, this is part of the roadmap. I do want to, at the moment, I'm only bridging from Java to Python, but I do want to bridge from Python to Java, and this way you could get a lot more.
Got it. So basically, it's not production ready, but yeah, we can just play around.
Yeah, you can play around, you can see how it fits to you, but it's not fully production ready. It might be ready for some cases, but not for all.
Yeah, simple test case we can run, all right?
Yeah.
Say simple ping or curl command kind of a use case.
Yeah, actually, you do have the JSON extractor. It does work. You can use that. You cannot assert yet. Assertion is something I do not support yet, but again, slowly and surely I will support that too. And
CSV dataset?
not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Definitely not recording. Like we can't do recording, right? We don't have any interface to record.
Not yet. No, not in the moment.
Yeah, that is not. I don't think that is high priority, at least from Python perspective.
Yeah, this is why I want the community here, because I can implement everything, but I need to prioritize, and I think I will prioritize based on what I see from community and feedbacks.
Got it. Cool. So let us get to some questions, some advanced questions here. I mean, I know you already mentioned about what it's not supporting, but anyway, I'll just go through from scratch. So Vignesh, so the gist of the question is how pymeter handles the load part, the load generation.
Is that okay? I think I understand the question. It's a question about performance. How does it perform?
Basically, the threads, right? So we spin threads in JMeter, right? So how pymeter does this?
All right, that's a really good question. So this actually takes me directly to the next point I wanted to talk about. So here's what I'm going to do here. I'm actually going to start VS Code main.py. And I'm going to paste here the standard example that I have in my documentation. So this is a very simple, stupid stuff.
Could you please increase the font size? It's very small.
Yes, just a second. Let me just see how I do that. Font.
Or you can hold your control key and scroll up.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work here. Just a second. Let me do several things. First, let's do that and zoom. Control plus equal. Yeah. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a bit too much, but no, that should be good. All right, so instead of the simple, okay, so you see that simple, it just takes a number of threads and a number of iterations. It's very simple, very basic. It doesn't help a lot. So we're going to replace it with the thread group rump up and hold. All right. And this needs, let's say, 30 seconds. All right. And what I'm going to do further, I'm sorry, it just yanks me up because I don't have the linters. I'm going to do an import time and time dot sleep. Let's sleep for 10 seconds before I start anything. All right. Now I'm going to open the task manager. Let's wait for it for a few moments. Performance, resource monitor.
So we're doing profiling.
Yep. Very basic profiling here. Okay, now we need to run it, so I need to first. Oh, it already activated for me. That's awesome. So
I think
Python.
yeah, VS Code sensed it. I guess it's Python. Okay, let us activate.
Yeah, I think it just recognized it out of nowhere. All right, so first of all, let's see, what do we have here? I don't want memory. I want overview. I think no CPU. Yeah, threads. Great. So let's start the execution here. And I think this one is going to be very insightful for the audience here. I'm going to start. Now it's holding for 10 seconds. Let's search for my Python here. Here's Python. And let's go to the top. And with a few seconds, we should start to see, there you go. Here are our threads. We should go all the way up to how many I said? 10. All right, so we see that it doesn't prompt up a new Java process, but all the threads are kind of maintained in Python, but they're not maintained really in Python. Python generated a JVM, and all the threads are generated within that JVM. So this is how the threads are managed in pymeter.
So is there any Java process running here?
Nope. Maybe they are, but they're not related. No, I don't see any Java process running here. No, it did. You know what? Let's do something. I give it 30 seconds. Let's give it more. Let's give it 50. Let's give it 60. Let's try it again. We don't need 10 seconds. We need 5 seconds here. That would be good enough.
Probably it is abstracting the Java process within Python.
Yeah, it's actually creating a JVM within Python. That's the point. And that's why it doesn't need inter-process communication. Okay, so let's try it again. Let's go Python. Here's Python. Within 5 seconds, it should go up. Oh, there it is. And that's it. It goes up. It should go up to 50 and hold it for 60 seconds.
Can we see the child processes of Python? Not in here, not in Resource Monitor, some other tool. Do you have any insights on that?
Nope. Maybe Procmon, something like that. I did not attempt that myself, but
like a JVisual VM we have, right, for a Java world. So anything similar to that in for Python? So that I want to just see the child processes and its consumption, memory, CPU, what it is taking.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. First of all, let's see. Okay, so memory, it doesn't. Yeah, this is the memory consumption here. And as to CPU, it takes. Where was it?
Python.
Yeah. So it doesn't take a lot of CPU because again, these are not hard-working threads here. They're not doing much. Just one request.
And also it runs in a headless mode, right? So by default,
it's done. It's over. But this is actually the point here is that it creates the threads within the process of Python, and it doesn't run any other Java processes outside of that. It's the same process. It's running a virtual JVM, kind of a double word here, a virtual JVM within Python. And therefore, it is not subjected to the same concurrency problems that we saw with Python.
Got it.
Okay, but this is of course a theoretical argument. So this leads me to the next point that I want to talk about, the benchmarking. Okay, so these are, I'm going to talk about first the concerns. Okay, so I think this goes aligned with the question. Who asked that question, by the way? Again, what's
Vignesh. Vignesh.
okay? This is a good question, and this kind of relates to this concern. Number one concern is the global interpreter lock. We know that Python has a trouble with multi-threading because its memory management is not thread safe. So Python's solution for this problem is to impose a lock for the entire interpreter. Okay, so basically only one thread can work at a time. Another concern is the static and dynamic typing. I talked about this in the conventions, but it also relates to performance because every time when the Python interpreter interacts with a variable with a name, it has to first check its type because the type is only determined at runtime. And this one consumes some time, and it can lead to performance problems. And we know from experience and from overall benchmarking that Python is orders of magnitude slower when compared to Java, C, C++, Go, Rust, etc. Another thing, but to take into account here is the computational runtime versus the I/O runtime. And in performance testing, we expect that the I/O runtime to be orders of magnitude more consuming than the computational. But with all that in mind, because of what I mentioned, the theoretical explanation to why these concerns are not as great is because we are actually running them in Java, right? The entire code is run in Java. And because it's run in Java, it is statically typed, and it is not submitted to the global interpreter lock. Okay, so these are the theoretical argument. And if there are any questions, if there are no questions about this, I will go into the empirical research that I've done to illustrate that further. All right, so I think I'm going to go for it. Okay, so I'm going to
Yeah,
go.
Eldad, before
Go
that,
ahead.
yeah, we got one question regarding the distributed test. You already answered this, but still I'm displaying it on the screen. So, how to run distributed test with controller agent setup?
At the moment, it is not supported. I need to spend time to support this, but it will be. It will be very similar to what you see with JMeter DSL Java. It's going to be very similar.
Correct. And one more question from Sid is overhead of performance. We already discussed this, but
Yeah.
still,
All right. So
overhead of
that's
performance.
yeah. That's the next topic. So if you go to the GitHub repo, you could immediately see this one about performance benchmarking. And here I took a parsimonious approach to validate performance. So what I'm doing here, I'm comparing the Java DSL with a Python DSL. Okay, so this would be my golden standard, and I will try to compare that with Python. So let's take a look at the Java DSL. I'm going to go into the Docker file, and it's very straightforward, right? You first create your environment. You use OpenJDK. You need Maven, and then you install everything. And then you can, okay, why I'm doing this, because I don't want to install all the dependencies every time. So I do this on the image building time. And then at runtime, when I run this Docker image, I just run the tests, right? So this is what we do in the Java. Now just let's go back here. Let's take a look at the test itself. Test. Okay. Test is very straightforward. It takes some environmental variables. I wanted that for flexibility. And it sends a GET request to the echo in this uniform random time. Very similar to what we saw in the demo. Now going back, let's take a look at the Python environment. I'm going to look at the Docker file. So again, we need a JDK, right? We installed Python 3, Python 3 pip, and then we install all of our dependencies. And then the runtime is very simple, just Python 3 and main. And the main file is just the same test, only written in Python. It's exactly the same thing, logically. So now what I'm left with, I need to run these tests several times, okay, repeatedly, one time after the other. And after all is done, I want to compare the results of each test. Okay, I want to see if there is a difference or if there is a statistically significant difference. And this is how it's done. I take a look at the main file. So I'm doing 4 number of observation. I did this several times, so it did not end with 50. It ended with 90, I think. It was 90 observation. I wrote this in the description here. And these came from so I generated 500 threads for each one, ramp-up time of 10 seconds, and I ran them each such cycle for 10 minutes. So this is the Java part. Oh, no, this is the Python part. Okay, I know that by the name of the image. And this is the Java part. Okay, so I do one Python, one Java, one Python, one Java. Now, one might ask, wait a minute, why won't you just run all your Python and then run all your Javas? Well, because maybe you could say that the time of the day makes a difference. Maybe there was sometimes during the Java execution when there was a slowness in my network or something happened. So doing this alternately between Java and Python kind of negates this risk. Not completely, but to some extent. So having all of that done, now we can take a look at the measurements. Okay, and you can read in this, you know what, Naveen, I'll send it to you in LinkedIn. You can post it too in the chat.
Sure.
So let's take a look at the results. Okay, so at the end, I have 90, I think it's 91 in total. So I have 91 such JSON files, and I read from this JSON files and I make the comparisons. So let's take a look at the first one. This is the total sample count. I see no statistically significant difference. Okay, so this is just statistic stuff. I'm sorry to be such a boring person here, but p-value is a test for statistical significance. And if we take a confidence interval of 5%, we should expect that under 0.05 p-value, this is statistical significance. So we have a difference that is big enough to nullify the null hypothesis. That's the basic thing. Now, the effect size is the difference between the two measurements in standard deviations. So this one means that it's 0.06 standard deviations between these two measurements. So the two measurements are, of course, Python and Java. So again, in sample count, I see no significance. And we can see the distribution across the different counts. So this is a histogram. We see no difference, very trivial difference. The same thing goes for throughput. So throughput is very similar between them. Again, statistically insignificant and a very, very small effect size. By the way, an effect size of 0.2 is noticeable. A 0.5 is moderate, and 1, okay, so if it's 1 standard deviation between the measurements, that's a large difference. So we're nowhere near that. Again, this is the error percentage. We see, again, statistically insignificant differences and very, very small effect size. So again, no difference here. And the response time, the mean response time between the measurements, again, statistically insignificant and very, very small effect size. So empirically, I'm very confident in saying that the differences between the pymeter and Java DSL are minor and not very large.
Cool. So this is so is there any reason why you selected Docker instead of bare metal?
I wanted to do a sterile environment on my own PC. I didn't want other processes to get involved. Maybe I can do a similar experiment with bare metal just on my PC. Maybe I can do that.
Yeah, we can try in EC2 if it is not local.
Yeah, I can do that too. I want to do more benchmarking. I want to do benchmarks of longitudinal executions. So let's say like 2-3 hours long. So that would increase the confidence. Yeah.
So basically, the difference is negligible. I mean,
Yeah.
Python versus Java. I mean, I thought it will be a huge difference, because of the nature of the Python language. It's,
I agree.
Really slow.
Yeah, it is. Python is not meant for speed. Python is meant for ease and readability and other stuff. But because of the bridging, it kind of negates the problem.
Correct. Okay, we have a question from Shravanti. What is the overall benefit on terms of ROI? Is it only for developers who are good in Python? How we can optimize the current components of JMeter?
Okay, so ROI is similar to any other performance testing tool. So if you happen to use JMeter, the traditional JMeter or JMeter DSL, or even the other tools like K6 or Locus or Artillery, the ROI is similar to what we should expect in any other performance engineering. Of course, this is still experimental. It has some way to go, but when it's up and ready with all the features, I believe it's going to be similar in ROI to all the others. It's not only for developers who are good in Python. You need to know Python to use it, of course, in the same sense that if you want to use K6, you need to know JavaScript or Artillery. It's also Node.js, but it's good for people who use Python in their organization and they think they will benefit from using Python in their pipelines. That's pretty much it. It's the same thing that you would ask with Selenium. Is Selenium only suitable for someone who knows Python? Well, no. Selenium is just a tool, and you can use the language of choice. And the last part, how does it optimize the current component of JMeter? It doesn't. It just allows you to use them in your Python environment. That's all it does. It doesn't optimize them.
Cool. So basically, we have to know some basic knowledge about Python.
Yeah.
So that will help us to write some scripts to get started, right?
Yeah. One question that I got on my wall, someone said, asked me what is the benefit of using pymeter, because now I need to add Python for scripting. Well, I said, no, you need to add Java for running. That's what you need to do. But it's the two sides of the coin. You need to know Python to use this. If you don't want to know Python, if you don't feel comfortable with Python, use Java. That's perfectly fine. No problem.
Correct. So we have a question from Sid, I guess. What are the possibilities of using Python in JMeter?
Currently, let's take a look at the current implementation of JMeter. You could take Jython. Okay, so Jython is the Java Python implementation. It's a Python interpreter written in Java. You can take the jar file, you can put it in the extensions directory in JMeter, and you can use that to use Python. Two problems with that. One is that it supports Python 2.7, which has reached end of life like 3 years ago. That's one problem. The other problem is if you have Python dependencies, that's not going to work very well. You have to install them, and it's not going to work. If your question is, can we use Python in JMeter through pymeter? I think that it will be possible when I create the bridge between Python to Java. And the plan is that you will create a subclass of the base sampler. So there's an abstract base sampler, and then it will attach the Python code, and it will marshal it into the virtual JVM environment. Again, these are all ideas in theory, but I believe it can happen, and I will work on it.
Yeah, as you said, right, the Jython, right now it supports only 2.7, but there are plans for 3.0, but no one knows how it will be, when it will be released. So we need to wait.
No. Another option, very interesting option, and something that I looked into when I thought about pymeter, is to use GraalVM. Okay, GraalVM is a amazing implementation of a polyglot. So it's a JVM, but it supports many other languages, so PHP, JavaScript, and Python, and some other languages. It's an amazing implementation, but again, to use that, you need to be a real expert. You need to be very good at it, and I think it's a very niche community at the point.
Yes, it's a performance-wise. I read some of the articles about GraalVM.
Yeah,
it is performance-wise, it's excellent ecosystem.
Yeah, it is. It is very performant. I think there is the framework Quarkus, the Quarkus web server framework that is optimized for GraalVM, and it creates amazing performance. But at the moment, it's not such a large ecosystem, not large enough in this case.
Okay. So I don't see any more questions here, Eldad. So anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I would like to talk about the roadmap, what other things I plan. So we talked about bridging from Python to Java. I would like to add more JVM options because JNIS allows you to also play with the JVM parameters, like the heap size and the there are two heap size parameters. I don't remember which is which, but you can play with that too. So I want to support that as well, because there are good ways to optimize JMeter for that. I want to support the staged pattern. Okay, I think staged pattern has been very successful in K6 and also in Locust. So I think I want to support that too. So you have, I want 100 threads for 10 seconds, and then 200 threads for 30 seconds, and so on. So stages are very useful here. I want more preprocessors. I want to develop more assertions, logical controllers. Okay, so like the if statement and the loop. I know that not many people like to use them, but sometimes it is inevitable. So this is overall the roadmap. And of course, I'm open for suggestions. You can come into my GitHub repo and suggest features. I'll be happy to see them.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So I don't see any questions. So the expectation from the community is to propose new ideas, new features, which needs to be implemented. What is a high priority for them, right? And then we can collect the feedback, and then we can try to implement.
Absolutely. And another expectation from the community is, please, if you're good in JavaScript, if you're good in Golang, if you're good in Rust, try to do the same bridge. It would be awesome to see more languages coming into live.
The Rust implementation is already there for JMeter? No.
I don't know. I know that there is one in Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby. Okay, Ruby is there. Yes, Ruby DSL is there.
I don't know if it's still maintained. I really don't know. I'm not good in Ruby. I don't really know that. But if there is one in Rust, I will be happy. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Cool. So that's it, guys. So please check it out. The GitHub repository already posted the links in the chat. Please check it out. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Eldad in LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me in LinkedIn, so that we can discuss, and then we can take this project further. Right, Eldad?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
And any defects, yeah, please let us know. Any issues. And if you want to contribute, if you're not interested in contributing code, you can also contribute in documentation. So there are a lot of ways you can contribute for any open source project. So please check it out, those links.
Yeah, just like any, I just shared on my screen, just like any other open source project, I have the code of conduct. So please make sure if you come to the repo and you start talking, please be respectful to others. Please be inclusive. Remember, there are different people with different levels of experience, different levels of understanding. So be polite and be kind to one another.
Yeah, I see you have put a lot of effort, Eldad, on this repository. So how many weeks you've been working on this?
Well, the numbers never lie. Let me see. The commits. I have 160 commits in total. Let's see if I can reach to the end. Older.
Like 2 months, almost.
Give or take. I took 1 week off when I was in Hungary. But it looks like several months.
Yeah, that's nice.
29 days.
1 month. Cool. Fine then. So thank you guys for staying with us. And yeah, please let me know, or Eldad know, if you have any ideas. Yeah, we are always welcome to implement that. Without further ado, yeah, please take care and have a great weekend, and happy Diwali, those who celebrate in India. Thank you. See you next week.
Next week.
Bye.
Bye.